Use the square root property to solve the equation. Give an exact answer using radicals as needed. Let's first of all recall the square root property. We'll do so by looking at these three simpler equations over here on the right. Solve x squared is equal to 25. What we need to do is to think, what are the numbers that you can square to get 25? Well, the first number that comes to my mind is the number 5. 5 times 5 is equal to 25. So 5 is one solution. However, we need to think about the negatives as well. Negative 5 times negative 5 is also equal to 25. So what are the solutions to this equation? Well, the solutions are all the square roots of 25. And 25 has two square roots. So the solutions to this equation are x is equal to both the positive and the negative square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5, so we can simplify and get x is equal to plus or minus 5. So both 5 and negative 5 are the solutions to this equation. Let's take a look next at x squared equals 3. What we're thinking of is, what are the numbers that you can square to get 3? Well, this is a little bit more challenging because 3 is not a perfect square. However, just like before, the solutions will be the square roots of 3. So the way we write the solution is x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. Now 3 is not a perfect square, so we just leave our answer in this form. The solutions are plus and minus the square root of 3. Now to generalize, if we have x squared is equal to k, where k is some non-negative number, then the solutions will be the two square roots of k, both the positive and the negative square roots of k. So we write down x is equal to plus or minus the square root of k. This is the square root property. If x squared is equal to k, where k is some non-negative number, then x will be equal to plus or minus the square root of k. So let's go back to our equation. We have the square of x minus 7 is equal to 64. Now it may be tempting to multiply x minus 7 times x minus 7, set the equation equal to 0, try to factor, but a more efficient method is just to think about what number can you square to get 64. Well, 8 times 8 is 64, but negative 8 times negative 8 is also 64. The numbers that are inside the parentheses here have to be the square roots of 64. So we're just applying the square root property. The x minus 7, the thing that's being squared, must be equal to either positive or negative the square root of 64. 64 is a perfect square, so we can evaluate the square root. X minus 7 is equal to plus or minus 8. Now this means that x minus 7 is either equal to 8 or x minus 7 is equal to negative 8. We go ahead and solve each of these by adding 7 to both sides. For the first equation, we get x is equal to 15. For the second equation, we get x is equal to negative 8 plus 7, which is negative 1. And remember, you can always go back and check your solutions. If we substitute 15 for x, 15 minus 7 is 8. The square of 8 is 64. That checks out. If you substitute negative 1 for x, negative 1 minus 7 is negative 8. And the square of negative 8 is also 64. So 15 and negative 1 are the solutions to this equation.